Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video we're gonna be doing a January reading wrap-up. Watching these videos, these are super fun to make, and this is actually my first one because I just became a booktuber like last month, so this is like a brand new video experience for me, doing a monthly wrap-up. This is our first one. By the way, if you're new here, my name is Kara and I do a lot of books, fashion, and lifestyle content, so if any of that is of interest to you, make sure to hit the subscribe button. If you see a glare in my glasses, because I have my ring light in front of me, because the lighting in this room is like not the best, and this is my office, also where I film my content, so we're just gonna have to work with it. I'm just gonna go ahead and put a disclaimer out there. This was a very romance heavy month for me. I just was very deep in romance this month, and most of my books are actually romance books with the exception of a few, I think. Go ahead and start with the first book that I read. So I read kind of a mix between Kindle books and physical books, but the first book that I finished this year was To Love Jason Thorne by Ella Mays. This is a romance, and it's actually part of a duel, because I think she wrote a book about the best friend from the first book. So this book is about Olive and Jason, and keep in mind that name because you're gonna be hearing that name a lot in this book. I read quite a few books that had the main character named Olive, so this is the first one. It is kind of a cheesy romance, and it also has like a lot of like steamy scenes, so like very spicy. If you're not into that, I probably don't recommend you read this book. It is a really fun romance though. It really keeps you hooked. Like, you want to see what happens, you want to see them end up together. It is kind of childhood, I wouldn't say best friends to lovers, but it is childhood friends to lovers in a way. If I go into more detail, I'll be kind of spoiling the book for you, so I'm not. So Jason is like a movie star, and Olive is a writer, and she writes a book, and Jason gets hired to be one of the guys in the book, and then kind of the story unfolds. Before that, they do give like a lot of backstory from their childhood and stuff like that. This is really not a big spoiler for the book, but that's something that, I don't know, might get you hooked and might want to make you read this book. I forgot to mention that this book is actually free on Kindle, and I think the book that follows it, so the second book from this like mini series, is actually also for free on Kindle Unlimited. So I did rate this book a 5 out of 5. Like, this was actually a 5-star read for me. There's not a lot of romances that have got me as hooked as that one did, so I totally recommend this one. The next book that I read this month was actually not a romance. It was a psychological thriller, and you might be familiar with The Silent Patient. I actually did a reading vlog for this one. That might have been my first reading vlog or my second one. I honestly didn't do too good on YouTube, so I'm starting to question my reading vlog situations because I just like really still don't have the hang of it. But anyway, it's a psychological thriller about a therapist and a patient that's completely silent. She used to be a painter, and she has been accused of killing her husband, and because she was in like total distress and didn't or anything like that, they probably ruled her as an insane patient. That's why she didn't go to jail. She actually went to a psychological institution, and that's when the therapist from this book enters, and that's kind of how the book unfolds. There is a plot twist in this book. I'm not saying that the plot twist wasn't good. It was predictable though, and I know a lot of people are like, I never saw it coming, that wasn't predictable. But for me, it was. Like, I saw it coming, not in the way the author put it, but it was a little bit predictable for me. I knew there had to be a connection. Anyways, that's all I'm gonna say because I'm gonna go on and spoil this book. I gave this book a super low rating, and don't hate me. Different people have different tastes in books, and you can probably love this book, and I have all my right to just dislike getting hated. But for me, this was a 2.5 read, and 2.0, yeah, pretty low rating for this one. I think a lot of people like it, so I do recommend it. Like, it's not a horrible book, it just wasn't for me. The next 4 books that I read were actually part of the series, and I did talk about the series in the last video I uploaded, but I'm still gonna briefly talk about it just so I don't get too repetitive. And I'm talking about the Off-Campus series. I am obsessed with that series, probably my favorite series I've read so far. And yeah, don't come at me if you hate that series. I know there's a lot of polarized opinions about this series. Not everyone's a huge fan, but they do have like super high ratings, so this series does have a really big following. Even though I talked about this series on my last video, I feel like if this is the first time watching this video, maybe you haven't heard about this series, so I'm just gonna go ahead and talk about it just a little bit. So this is a series about hockey, and it follows a group of friends, and there's different storylines. The first book, I'm gonna put a picture over here of the cover. The first book follows Hannah and Garrett, and he's like a really popular guy in school, and he is like a big figure in the hockey team. He wants to go play for the NHL, and she has had some trauma. She is a music major, and they end up making a deal. That's why it's called a deal. So Hannah starts becoming more like attractive in Justin's eyes. He's the guy that she has a crush on, so she agrees to tutor Garrett in order for him to help her get this guy's attention. After the first book, I get all the other books confused with the names of the girls and the guys, but the second book is about John Logan. He's Garrett's best friend, and he actually has a crush on Hannah, so that's kind of part of the storyline. But he meets this freshman called Grace, or she's sophomore, I can't remember, and they have sort of a one-night stand. They just have like a little bit of an episode one night, and after that the story kind of goes from there, so that's not a spoiler. Then the third book is about Dean, and this is actually one of my favorite books after number 1, even though I said in my last video that I kind of like them in the order they were made. This one's actually one of my favorites. So Dean's kind of a very promiscuous, is that how you say that word, character, and he like dates a lot of girls, sleeps with a lot of girls, and Allie, it's like very used to long-term relationships, and they meet through Hannah and Garrett because Dean is one of the guys that lives in the off-campus house, and they end up also having a one-night stand. I feel like this is kind of a trend in this series, but they do, and then after that the story kind of goes from there. And I really recommend this one. I really like it. I really like the story. I really like the development of the characters in this book, and yeah, it's a really good love story. So number 4 is about Tucker and Sabrina. So Tucker is one of the guys that also lives in the off-campus house, like all the characters I've mentioned, all the guy characters from the hockey team. He's not really interested in playing professional hockey in the NHL. He has a business degree, and he wants to like eventually buy his own business. He has a single mom. He's a really domestic guy, likes cooking and stuff like that. Sabrina is like really career-driven woman, and she will go to law school, and they end up meeting each other and connecting, and it's just a really back and forth story. This is actually not my favorite book from the storyline. It's probably my least favorite book from the series so far. There is book number 5 that I talked about in my last video as well, and I haven't finished that book, so that's probably gonna roll over to my February wrap-up, so we'll talk about that when I'm actually done with the book. But I can't really have an opinion yet because that wouldn't be fair to you guys. You know, all together as a series is definitely a 5 out of 5 for me. Next book that I read was actually my very first Colleen Hoover book. I filmed a reading vlog with this one too. Like I said, I'm not very good at reading vlogs, so I don't know if you guys are gonna actually enjoy that one, but I'm uploading that one before this one goes up. I'm actually uploading that one today. I'm doing editing so I can upload it later this afternoon as kind of a surprise upload. If you hear a noise, it's like my bathroom. It's like making some noises, I don't even know. And this one is a novel. It's very dramatic. There's romance in it. There's a love story, technically 2 love stories in it. I really like this book, and I'm gonna go ahead and go over my thoughts about it because, like I said, the reading vlog about it's going up before this book, so I'm not really spoiling that video for you guys. So I rated this book actually I have rated this book I think a 5 out of 5 because of the writing style and stuff like that. Now looking back on it, it's not a very fair rating, so I'm ducking a whole point down to 4 out of 5. So this book follows Lily, then Atlas, so there's like 3 main characters technically. Not really, Lily's the main character. She had this really interesting relationship when she was a teenager. She met this boy called Atlas, and he was homeless, and they ended up you know, falling for each other and had a really complicated relationship. There is some trigger warnings in this book. There is violence, there is rape, domestic violence, and also a hint of fertility. So if that's a trigger for you, maybe you shouldn't read this book. It doesn't follow a storyline very long though, but there is a hint of all of that. And so she has this really cute love story. She writes in this diary to Ellen DeGeneres, which I think that was kind of stupid, I'm not gonna lie, throughout the book. But I mean, Colleen Hoover's writing style is beautiful. This is my only book by her so far. I am going to be reading her new book for a challenge that I'm gonna be filming for you guys. This one, I liked it, and I get the hype of why certain people might like her writing style, but I don't know if Colleen Hoover is gonna become one of my favorite authors like she is for a lot of you guys. I mean, it does kind of give you a good sense of Colleen Hoover's writing style and how dramatic and intense it can be. And I don't mean dramatic in a bad way. It's very intense, her writing style. So I do recommend it. Freaking love the cover. It's very soft. But this was one of the books I read this month. My next book this year was the On Honeymooner by Christina Lauren. This is my first book by them. I am obsessed with the cover of this book, you guys, and that's one of the reasons why I picked it up, besides the fact that it's highly overhyped on TikTok. This book was super cute romance as well. It also follows the storyline of a girl named Olive, and she is a twin, and her sister gets married, and she won this honeymoon to go to Hawaii, but then everyone in the wedding gets food poisoning, and then enters her nemesis Ethan. Forgot his name for a second. So enter his nemesis Ethan. He is brother of the groom, and they really dislike each other throughout, you know, this entire book. Always dislike each other since their siblings enter a relationship. But everyone gets food poisoning at the wedding party, and there's a honeymoon up for grabs, and they go together on this honeymoon even though they hate each other. They just want to let each other win, pretty much. And yeah, a really nice love story unfolds from this book. It is really cheesy, and there's almost like two whole storylines, because when they get back from the honeymoon, there's like a whole other storyline that's being followed, so that can be a little bit confusing. But I do like that Christina Lauren's writing style is a little bit complex. So far, this is a really good example of their writing, and this was actually my first book by them, and I'm actually going to be reading another book by them for another video that I'm doing, so I'm excited for that. I really like this book. I don't remember what I rated this book on Goodreads, but I'm gonna go ahead and give it right now, off the top of my head, a 4 out of 5. Definitely recommend. It's a really cute romance and definitely keeps you hooked. I read this book in like 2 days, which is pretty fast for myself. This one is also a romance. Shocker, I told you it was gonna be a very romance heavy month. This is The Love Hypothesis by Ailey Hazelwood. I freaking love this book. It is a little bit of a denser read, like it's longer than other romance books that I've read, but it is a academic rivals to lovers kind of trope, sort of. He, you know, holds a position of power. He's a little older and stuff like that, so I don't know if that's, I don't know, a trigger for you guys. This book was super sweet, and I really liked the sumptuous language and stuff like that, because they're like, you know, PhD candidates, and there's a guy that's a doctor and stuff like that. This is about Olive, another Olive, and then Adam Carlson. He is the doctor, and this one has fake dating, very developed, and I love fake dating tropes so much, and this might be one of my favorite fake dating trope books ever. I actually want to do a book video where I talk about fake dating trope, and I think that'll be really fun, because I know that's a trope that a lot of people like, but I actually kind of want to branch out from all the TikTok video recs. I mean, I'm probably gonna include this one, but I want to find some other fake dating books. So they have to fake a relationship, so Olive's best friend dates the guy that Olive used to go out with, and then it just goes from there. And that relationship kind of benefits him because he wants to fake date her, so he gets his grant money back for his studies and stuff like that. But anyways, this is a really cute book. I really loved it. I really like the cover, and yeah, this book is freaking perfect. But it's not a 5 out of 5 read for me. I think I'm really stingy with my 5 out of 5 reads, so I gave this book also a 4 out of 5. But I still highly recommend this book. It is so fun to read. Next, I thought I would talk to you guys about a book that I DNF'd this year. with that being said, I'm still planning on finishing this book at some point, so it might come as a surprise to you guys when I show this book in a wrap up in a few months, or even maybe next month. But this book, I just was not interested right off when I started reading it. It did not get my attention at all, and this might come as a surprise to you guys. Like, this book is really overhyped, and it's the same author by fishery, so it is Emily Henry, and I really like fishery. That was one of my, I think, my only 5 out of 5 read, and I was shocked that I didn't get into this book at all. Like, it was so slow. I wasn't very attached to the characters from the beginning. I mean, I'm only 80 pages in, and that might not be too much, but my theory with books is that if you're not really interested in the first 60 or 50 pages, then you're probably not gonna like it, period. That's just me. But I commit to this book. Like, I couldn't like keep pushing myself to read it. I might still give it a try if I have like no other romances to read and I really want to pick up a romance, then I might finish this book. But right now I DNF'd it this month, technically January 30th. Today we have this entire day, and then tomorrow I might be able to finish one more book that I'm reading right now. Can't make any guarantees because I am starting another book video today that requires a lot of reading, so I'm still gonna talk to you guys a little bit about this book and what I found so far, because I am halfway, so I can kind of decide for myself if I'm like really enjoying this book or not. And I think this one's gonna rub people the wrong way because I'm not like super into it as much as I probably should be because of the type of book that I'm into, but not this one. So I'm talking about It Happened One Summer, and I'm halfway. Actually, I'm over halfway with this book. And I like the cover. It's a really cute storyline. Like, it's a really well written storyline, but I'm not a huge fan of the characters. I don't really like Piper, and I don't really like, what's his name, Brandon. Not a huge fan of the characters. I'm just not really connecting with them, and that really affects me when I'm reading a romance book. If I don't like the characters too much, I just can't really enjoy the book as much. I'm still gonna finish it, and maybe if I finish it and I change my mind, I'll be talking about it more in next month's wrap up. Those are all the books that I read in January. Let me know if you've read any of these books. Let me know if you think I should, I don't know, reread them and see if I change my mind. Let me know if you agree with me, if you think differently. I know a lot of these books are really beloved by you guys. They're really overly hyped, so do keep in mind before you come for me that everyone has different tastes and everyone's entitled to their opinion about this book. So it doesn't mean they're bad books just because, you know, talking crap about them, because I actually enjoy all of these books, and it was definitely different experiences, each one of these books, and I'm glad I read them all, and we'll see if I change my mind over this one. And that brings us to the end of the video. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Leave me your book recommendations in the comments down below. I always look forward to reading more books, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Don't forget to subscribe.